Okay, welcome to the first go-to session of the month. We are going to hold three go-to sessions each of the first 3 weeks of the month. They'll always occur at the same time, which is Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific. So, welcome to the first session. This will mostly be an introduction to the course as a whole, though we will get into what you need to do for this week's main activities. So, let's begin by looking at our presentation for tonight. Okay, first of all, welcome to English Composition. There's my name, Mr. Sussman. You have your choice. You can refer to me as Mr. Sussman, or it's perfectly fine to call me by my first name, which is David. Some people have already sent me messages, and you might notice that I always sign off with my first name, so that gives you permission to do so if you want. Though I know that some of you are probably very formal, and prefer to call instructors by Mr. or Miss, which, by the way, is the accepted protocol. So certainly don't feel that because I give permission to use my first name, that that's standard procedure in other classes. The LA Film School puts a lot of emphasis on professional etiquette, and one sign of professional etiquette is to call instructors Mr. or Miss. But I'm perfectly okay with you referring to me by first name if you feel comfortable doing so. This is just what we'll go over. Some general welcome messages, some tips for success, some information about me, some details about the course as a whole, and then we'll get into the assignments that are due this week. And if we have time, we'll leave some things open to questions and answers. Though right now, while I'm recording this, I'm the only one here. Hopefully, some other weeks will be filled with a few more people. It makes the presentations more interactive and more fun, but that's okay. I'm just going to charge ahead. By the way, these go-to sessions are sort of supplemental information. I consider them pretty important. It's not that anything that's covered in the session isn't already contained in your readings and in your assignment sheets, but this helps personalize things a bit more. So that's why I hold them every week. Okay, first of all, welcome aboard. Um, This is the LA Film School. I love teaching for this place. I've been teaching here for about 6 months. I'm more than happy to work with all of you. So, welcome. This is an exciting place to study and learn, especially since so many of you are heading into the entertainment industry. So, why not be centered where it's all taking place in Los Angeles? Some of you are in the LA area, others of you are just strictly online students. I myself am actually not in the Los Angeles area. I only mention this because I already had a student contact me about a personal appointment, and I had to sort of embarrassingly say I'd love to, but I'm not in the area. I'm actually on the other coast. But I do teach for the LA Film School, and I'm happy to do so. So to all of you, welcome aboard. Quickly, some tips for success. You probably noticed something, right? Ask questions appears a lot. But in between, ask questions. Please attend or watch all the go-to sessions. Yes, they're technically supplemental, but important information always appears. Read all materials carefully, especially assignment sheets. Okay, the assignment sheets are incredibly detailed, and yes, during the go-to sessions, I'll try to look into those assignments more specifically. But I can't possibly go over everything that's on the assignment sheet, so that's your task. The assignment sheets explain what needs to be done. And it also includes a rubric at the very end that explains what you need to do in order to get a high grade or just an average grade or to fail if that's your goal. I don't think that's anybody's goal. But the assignment sheets are filled with useful information. If you haven't already, enroll over at McGraw-Hill Connect. I'll show just how easy that is in a second. Okay, but everybody needs to be enrolled because you have readings to complete there that are connected to the weekly reading quizzes, and there's some interactive modules that you also have to complete that you receive a grade for. Okay, so you need to enroll over at the textbook site. And finally, just in general, take advantage of gimme points. Now, what do I mean by gimme points? If I can switch real quickly to our platform, okay, so here's the main page. This is the instructor view, but your view looks pretty much identical. You have a lot of points that I think are really just in your back pocket if you take advantage of them. For instance, those weekly modules, they're interactive that you'll complete over at the McGraw-Hill Connect site. They're worth a certain percentage, right? 3%. Are they all worth 3%? I can't remember. Yeah. But that's 12% of your grade. That's really easy. Just take it. Every week there's a reading quiz. They're only worth 2% each, but that's 8%. So 8% plus 12% is 20%. So there's 20% of your grade that's pretty much handed to you. If you'll take advantage of those easy 20% worth of points, I mean, that really puts you in a good position to do well in the class. Now, speaking about the textbook site, while we're here, um, actually, let me linger on this board for a little while here, just make a couple of observations. First of all, if you do need to send me a question and it's important and you need an immediate feedback, please use the envelope icon up here. This sends me a direct message. My little envelope icon lights up, and that means I know I have a message to read and respond to. The issue is that you can also leave comments under activities. Like, let's say you go through this first activity, textbook registration and McGraw-Hill Connect. It's just an explanation of how to register at the textbook site. But let's say you encounter some problem or some difficulty, and right there and then you leave me a comment. That's fine. The problem is that those sorts of comments go into this pile here. You can see it's a little bell symbol. Okay. And I literally get this, by the way, this bell is called notifications. And I literally get a notification for everything you do. Like if you sneeze, I get a notification. If you clear your throat, I get a notification. If I click on this little icon, you'll see Andrew submitted an assignment. Someone has already submitted a post to the discussion board. So I get notifications anytime you post to a discussion board, anytime you just read through an activity and click on the I have completed this activity button. Okay, so when you leave comments for me, that's okay, but sometimes they get buried and they're a little bit more difficult to spot. So if you need to send me a message, please use the message icon. You can also feel free to send me a direct email. That's fine. And again, if you do leave a comment, typically I'm pretty good at spotting them because I do get an email notification. It's just I get in the habit of logging into the site multiple times a day. And if I don't see the envelope icon lit up and I haven't checked email in a few hours, sometimes I can miss a comment that's left for me. Okay, while we're on this page, textbook registration. Let me just show how easy that is. Some people have already registered, I believe, and that's great. You get a lot of description about ebook codes and a link to following these instructions on how to use a code and get to the course, some more information. But it's really as simple as just scrolling down, clicking on the PDF link, which I'm going to open now. Come on, open. And you should see a document that looks like this. And all you need to do is scroll down to the registration link, which is here, and click on it. Okay, don't copy and paste it because I think that can create some problems. Just click on it, and it should take you to the registration section. And you should see my name. Okay, you should see this month, June 2015. That's an indication that you're in the right place. And you just have to click on register now, and it will take you through a set of instructions. And it's that simple. You will need a specific code that was emailed to your LA Film School account. Okay. You'll need that to complete the registration. Also, I've heard that there are other ways to register for the book site, like using the virtual, what's it called? Virtual source, I think it's called. But the simplest way is just to go to the McGraw-Hill site directly, and you can do that by clicking on that registration link in the PDF. Now, once you're taken there, and let me see if I can real quickly sign in. Okay, so here's our class right here. Actually, let me go back for a second. Let me see if we have some people who have already successfully registered. Yes, we have. Good. 11 people have registered. Awesome. That's nearly half the class, so it shows that people are enrolling. It looks like 2 people. I don't know. I'm going to ruin these names probably. Havel and John Stark have signed up for the courtesy access. Just be careful because it expires halfway through the month, so you're going to need to complete the registration process for real. Okay, and it's just a matter of getting that ebook code. Now, what do you do if you don't have that ebook code? I'm sorry for jumping around so much. I'm actually going to skip a few slides. And where is it? Anytime you have problems, okay, contact LA Film School support. You can email them. I don't recommend this because it's actually better to speak to a live person, but you can email them at support@lafilm.edu or call them at this number. Okay. This is also located in some of the other supplemental materials on your site. You should be probably familiar with this number already, hopefully, because maybe you've used it in the past, but it's 877-349-3456. So I'll leave that slide up for just a few seconds as I talk so you can jot it down. Or all these sessions are recorded and archived after the fact, so you can always watch this video again or skip ahead to, for example, this specific part so you can get that phone number. But if you did not receive a code, you need to call this number, okay? Textbook issues are one of the most common issues that LAO support deals with. So if you call them and speak to a live person, the issue should get resolved quickly. You should get that code so you can just go back to the McGraw-Hill site, plug it in, and complete registration. Now, when you complete registration, and I'm going to go into the course, you should see something that looks like this. The great thing is you don't have to touch the book at all because we've already selected the readings you have to complete for you. So you never have to actually go into the book itself and read entire chunks or find individual readings. No, they're all chosen for you. So for example, week 1 begins with what is good writing? And as you'll see, the readings are in general not terribly long. So what is good writing? It's just that, okay? Very, very short. So don't ignore the readings, especially because they're connected to a reading quiz you need to take. So keep up with the readings for each week. But also you have these 4 interactive modules. They're due every Sunday. So the week 1 interactive module is due June 7th. And it's just a matter of clicking on the module and then it will walk you through the steps. It's basically an interactive program that will teach you concepts and test your knowledge interactively. Okay. And here's the great thing. You just need to get to 100% completion and you get all those points. If you don't make it 100% through, let's say you only get 85% through, then 85 would be your grade. But there's really no reason to get to 100% completion. And these are some of those gimme points that I talked about. Just completing these modules to 100% and you get those, what was it, 8% total? Just handed to you. It is adaptive, meaning if you answer questions wrong, the program will ask you even more questions to make sure that you understand a concept. So please do not try to race through the modules because the more that you just guess or the more that you answer incorrectly, the longer it should take. The modules are not terribly difficult. I've had some people complete them in 2 to 3 hours. I've had some people who just already know the material pretty well complete them in 30 or 40 minutes. Don't worry about how long it takes you. Just try to complete them to 100%. Okay. So there's the textbook site. So I'm going to click off of that, save some power for my computer. Let's look while we're here on the board. Some important things. Make sure that you look through the course syllabus and the course at a glance. The course at a glance is a really nifty document because it shows the entire month as a calendar and when things are due and what you need to complete. Putting it really simply, assignments are basically always due on Sunday. The only exception are discussions. For example, this week you do have a discussion activity, which is, where'd it go? Right here, right in front of me. Your experience with writing. It's a discussion worth 5% of your grade. Discussions open up at the beginning of the week and then they end on Sunday. This means that people have all week to make an original post and to respond to 2 of their classmates. Okay. So, there are some activities, discussions in particular that open up earlier in the week, but basically everything is always due on a Sunday. Now, you should use that appropriately. I have no way to check when you're coming into the site and when you're completing activities. Actually, I do, but to be honest, I don't really take a look at that. If you want to wait till Sunday to complete everything, that's your choice. Just understand that leaving everything until the final day can make things complicated. I realize that lots of students have full-time jobs, they have families, they have other obligations that take away from their time. That's the beauty of online classes, right? That you get to work on things at your own pace, on your own schedule. So I have no problem. Just understand that it's probably a good idea, if you can, to do work throughout the week as well. A lot of the activities you have to complete aren't terribly long, like logging in for an hour or two in the night or an afternoon to do some of those readings. and get them out of the way. I mean, ideally, I think you should at least be coming to the site once a day. Um, I don't make many general announcements for the entire class, but when I do, it would be nice that you see them. So just checking in every so often. Plus, with some activities like the discussion, it's really awkward if you wait until 11:45 p.m. to do everything, like make a post, respond to two other people, because A, you'll probably be rushing through it, and I'll be able to see that. And B, it means that nobody else really has time to read your original post or respond to it. So yes, everything is always due on a Sunday, but use your time wisely. Um, Most of the activities this week, and you can see there are a bunch of them, a ton of them. Most of them are just basically straightforward information, lots of registering. So you need to register over the textbook site. You also need to register at turnitin.com. This will be the place that you turn in your major writing activities. There's one each week. So this week is an assignment called How I Write. Next week is an assignment called Your Media Influences and Inspirations. Week 3, there's a Defending Your Ideas writing assignment. And finally, what we're working toward is an actual review of a piece of media or a social media site that you admire. Okay. So each of these 4 major writing assignments need to be handed in through turnitin.com. Hopefully, some of you have used this site in the past, but if you haven't, let's take a quick look. Basically, the important stuff you need to be aware of here is this stuff: the class ID and the password. These are the 2 things you need to enroll. Okay. If you go to turnitin.com, you'll basically see create accounts. Okay. This is what you should use unless you've used turnitin.com previously as an LA film student. If you haven't, you should be choosing create account. And when you click on that, let me get rid of these fields here. Actually, let me keep that one. You'll put in your LA Film School address. Okay, so I have one of those. Right, your password. This is for if you've used Turnitin before. If you haven't, you'll just select create a new account, which will apply to most of you. So you click on students, and then it will ask you for that class ID number, which is what I just showed you. Okay, this specific number, plug it in. The password is sunshine. Okay, that's the password. And you just fill out the rest of the information on your own: first name, last name, etc. Okay. And once you get through it, you'll be into the site. It's that simple. And once you're in the site, it's pretty intuitive. If you've used Turnitin before, you should know how. But basically, it's no more difficult than when you upload assignments to the LA Film School platform. Okay, you'll need to upload a document that you wish to hand in for a particular assignment. It needs to be in doc format or docx format. So basically, that's the Microsoft Word format. If you don't have Microsoft Word, you can use Google Docs. Microsoft also has a program called OneDrive, which is basically their free online set of tools. So it includes things like PowerPoint and Word, etc. But yeah, your major writing assignments need to be handed in that DOC format, and they'll be handed in via turnitin.com. Okay, so there are 2 registration issues to take care of: the textbook site over at McGraw-Hill and turnitin.com. It might seem a little bit crazy, like, okay, I've got my LA Film School site, and then there's a textbook site, and then there's a Turnitin.com, but it's not really that complicated. You'll be going to McGraw-Hill to do readings and to complete those interactive modules, and then when it's time to hand in a major writing assignment, you'll just do so at Turnitin.com. Some other important things to note is you have this assignment here called Read View. Okay, every week there's a set of readings to complete. Note that this is in addition to your readings over at the McGraw-Hill site. And I just showed that those readings aren't terribly long, but you still need to read them, because those readings, in conjunction with these, for example, there's a brief infographic to look at, which basically means information that's delivered in a visual way about writing skills and its connection to salaries, an article about writing in the workplace, and a short 5-minute video. The McGraw-Hill readings plus these supplemental readings play a role in the reading quiz. Okay, so you have a reading quiz here worth 2%. It's 25 questions. They're all multiple choice. So as soon as you're done with the quiz, you'll get an immediate response on how you did. But those reading quizzes always deal with all of the readings that are assigned for the week, both from the textbook site and the assigned readings under the read view activity. Okay. Now, let me get back to what I was originally going to talk about. Introductory stuff. Believe it or not, we got off on this just because of this stuff here. So yeah, I've covered all this, right? Enroll at McGraw-Hill Connect, take advantage of those easy points, attend and watch the go-to session that I'm giving now, and you should be okay. The final tip, be positive, and I mean that. Okay, that's why I have this smiley face here, right? That says you are awesome. That's not just, I'm not just saying that to say it. Okay, I enjoy teaching here at the LA Film School. I love working with all the students. I do realize, though, that online studying can be a challenge for the reasons I just mentioned. Lots of you have full-time jobs, you have families. And also online schoolwork can, if you're not careful, it can sort of feel detached, as if there isn't a real person teaching. There is me, so don't forget about that. I'm not just sitting here in my house on a Tuesday night for the fun of it. I'm doing this because it's important for you to know who I am and to hear my voice and to interact with me. But yeah, online learning can be a sort of detached or even an isolating experience, but it shouldn't be. Okay. I know that some people prefer traditional classroom teaching, and that has its benefits as well. But let me tell you about the number one benefit, as I see it, of online learning. I would actually argue you have more access to your instructor than you do through the traditional classroom. I've taught in both structures. Okay. Classroom teaching, yes, it has its perks. But one of the downsides is once you teach class, I don't know. I thought I was a pretty friendly and outgoing and good teacher, but I didn't really hear from my students once class ended. I mean, occasionally a few might send an email or ask a question. A few would want to set up office hours or meeting times, but for the most part, only that hour in the classroom counted. Outside of that classroom, I pretty much didn't hear from the students again because online learning sort of requires you to contact your instructor with questions or to bounce ideas off of, or because I'll go into the discussion board and comment on what you've written. I actually think there's more interaction that occurs almost daily than it would in the traditional setting. So there's my message. Be positive, be excited. You're attending a great school, the LA Film School. You want to be here. I'm excited to be here. So take advantage of that. Never let yourself drift into that feeling that you don't feel connected with the course or you don't feel connected with me. I'm a real person, okay? I'm available. By the way, that's the final thing I sort of forgot to show on the platform, which is under this frequently asked questions activity, which again, you should really go through and carefully read because it will answer 90% of the things you'd ever want to know about the course. It also includes my contact information, okay, and when I'm available. There's my email address, dsussman@lafilm.edu. There's my phone number if you prefer to call. So there are other ways to get in contact with me without just sending me a message through that envelope icon. And there's my availability, okay. Usually I'm pretty much always online, even outside my hours, but the hours you're guaranteed to find me are basically Monday through Friday from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. and also Saturdays from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. These are all Pacific times, okay? Those are hours where you stand a pretty good chance if you send me a message during those hours. I should respond hopefully pretty quickly. I mean, technically I have 24 hours to respond to you. It's pretty rare that I need that much time. I mean, that only happens like if you send me something at 9 p.m. and I just don't happen to see it until the following day at, I don't know, 3 p.m. or something, and almost 24 hours have passed. But those are my official hours. Okay. But yeah, there are lots of ways to get in touch with me if you need to. Okay, some info about me. There's my picture. I know, it looks like a mugshot. But some quick facts. I do have 15 years teaching experience. My interests include film, music, and creative writing, meaning those are the things that I've specifically taught. I've taught introduction to film. I'm not a music professional, though I do play piano. Creative writing is actually my field of study. And this is great because it sort of dovetails nicely with what you're studying here at the film school, right? Film is the most obvious area of interest, but I know we also have music people. We have gaming students. We might even have some writing for entertainment people. And it's great that my interests sort of connect with yours. Okay, so my background in film and music and Most of the creative disciplines is pretty strong, and that's another sort of appeal of the LA Film School. You'll probably find out that most of your instructors, whether it's an English instructor or a digital literacy instructor, what have you, have pretty strong backgrounds in these areas of interest. Okay, we're specifically hired because we do have these backgrounds. We're not just brought in to be the generic English instructor. We do know about what you're here to study. Um, some other quick info, just if you, in case you're curious, which you're probably not, but I mean, places I've taught at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, Ohio University, the University of Missouri, and some other smaller places you may not have heard of. Missouri Valley College, which is a small private school, uh, Harper Community College, that's in Illinois, and of course the LA Film School. And the courses that I've taught include English composition, such as this class, American literature, business writing. That's like resumes, cover letters, proposals, reports, all that kind of stuff. Creative writing, specifically fiction, introduction to film, and digital literacy. I have taught digital literacy. You guys, I doubt, have had me, but I do teach that course as well. Okay, we've already talked about McGraw-Hill Connect, right? So I'm just going to skip this slide. I didn't know what order I'd handle things today. There's that support number again, in case you didn't jot it down the first time. And the late policy. Okay, so things are always due on a Sunday. You do have a 3-day grace period. It's not a complete grace period because there is a loss of points for each day an assignment is late, but you basically do have 72 hours after that Sunday midnight deadline to get work turned in. But be aware of that late policy, okay? I try to be as flexible as I can. I mean, again, I get it. I know your lives are difficult. I know that they're busy. It's not my goal to see people not do well in the class. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. I want to see every person pass. Yes, there's work to do, and yes, you have to put forth a solid effort. I do think, though, that if you do those things, it's pretty difficult not to pass. I mean, I can't make promises, obviously, but it's not that terribly difficult of a course. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, there's work to complete. And yes, you have to pay a lot of attention to it. But I think if you do those things, you stand a pretty good chance of passing. But just be aware of the late policy. I'll try to be as flexible as I can. So if you're really encountering issues, like there's an emergency, there's an accident, there's a family death or injury, or even smaller things. Let's say you just got a double shift and you're going to have trouble completing the assignment that's due. Let me know about it, because in advance I can then be more flexible and give you more time and not take points off for penalty. But basically, when those deadlines pass, then I can't do very much. Then the penalties are in place, and after 72 hours, you get a 0. So try to stay on top of the work. Also, don't look at those, as I mentioned earlier, don't look at those Sunday due dates as, oh, I don't have to do anything until Sunday. That could really come back to bite you. Okay, so we're here to study online composition. So let's talk about the composing you're going to have to do this very first week. And let me go back to our main site. There are basically 2 major graded activities this week. The first one is a discussion activity called Your Experience with Writing, and the other one is your first graded writing assignment called How I Write. So let's take a look at these one at a time. I already have the instructions open for the first discussion. Again, make sure that you do go over this assignment sheet on your own with some care. I'm going to go over some general points here, but you'll need to look at the finer points on your own. Really, it's pretty simple. In this first discussion board, reflect and describe 2 or 3 experiences that you have had with writing or English classes. So what do you need to do? First, to prepare, you should think about your past experiences with writing and English courses. And when you're ready, you need to do 2 things. First, you need to make an original post. This is due by Wednesday of week 1. If you post it Thursday, I'm not going to freak out. But the goal here is to post before the weekend comes. Because like I said, if everybody waits to make their first post on Sunday, then other people might not have the chance to see what you've written because they've already posted ahead of time. But basically, in a paragraph or brief essay, describe 2 or 3 experiences you have had with writing in the past. These experiences can be good, bad, or a combination. It says in a paragraph or brief essay, because you have to describe 2 or 3 experiences, I would recommend having 2 or 3 separate paragraphs. That makes sure that you're discussing each experience with detail. I'm not going to take off points if there's only a single paragraph, but I will be looking at the quality of that paragraph. The good news is there's no right or wrong answers here, okay? So you can be honest about a bad experience. You can be honest about a good experience. I mean, it'd be awesome maybe if you describe one of each, but that's not a requirement. But certainly you don't have to write what you think I want to hear. So I can usually I can usually sniff those out. It's like, wow, this person really loves writing essays, and maybe it's true, but it's, maybe the student only writes 2 or 3 sentences. And I think, wow, it certainly doesn't seem like the person loves writing. So you don't have to sort of fill it up with content that you think I'm going to appreciate. You can be honest about a bad experience. You can be honest about a good experience. The important thing is that you are committing yourself to writing professionally, because every piece of writing you do in this class, whether it's a message that you send to me, whether it's a post to a discussion board, and especially obviously those official writing assignments, they all are. You should be aiming for the same standard. Okay, so just because it's a discussion post does not mean that you get to slip into the sorts of habits that you see in other online discussion boards that you come across on the internet. Okay, you should be writing in complete sentences. There should be adequate space between sentences. You should be capitalizing proper nouns. You should be capitalizing the first word, or excuse me, the first letter of the first word of a new sentence. You should be avoiding text speak, like using lowercase I for the personal pronoun I, or other sorts of bad habits that we see all the time that are perfectly fine when you're writing a tweet, or if you're quickly writing a post to a message board from your phone. But for this class, you should be writing at a much higher level. So yes, there are no right or wrong answers for your first post, but basically I'll be judging it on the quality of the overall depth of what you've written, and just the quality of what you've written. Okay, so every opportunity to write in this class is an opportunity for practice and improvement. And then once you make that first post, you have until Sunday to respond to at least 2 of your classmates. Make sure that you give meaningful feedback. So you're not just writing, oh, great job, or loved your experiences, sounds awesome. Okay, we're doing more than that. And to make sure that you're writing quality responses, there's this thing called the RISE model. You have it as a PDF document under this activity. I also have it open, I believe. Okay, from the website. I believe you've seen this before in digital literacy. If you haven't, I'm not going to go into great detail because you can look at the PDF yourself. But in general, RISE stands for these 4 areas: reflect, inquire, suggest, and elevate. You can read through the descriptions on your own. What might be pretty useful is, once you get past that, it's just to look at the examples of something that meets basic standards for equality, um, comments, and what does not. Okay. You want to be creating the sorts of comments that meet these standards, not the ones that don't. And then you have some examples of statements that meet these standards. Now, if you want to follow the RISE model, that's great. If you can write thoughtful, in-depth, and meaningful responses that encourage dialogue, that encourage thought on your own, that's great too. But the goal here is not to just write short responses or incredibly general responses. The idea is really to get in conversation or dialogue with what someone else has written. Because ideally, if you do so, the person who originally made that post might actually be excited by what you've written and respond back, which might in turn encourage you to write something back. I know that doesn't always happen. Some months it happens quite a bit. Other months, people treat the discussion boards as just an activity to complete. But ideally, we should be trying to treat the discussion boards as a conversation. And that's more likely to occur if we're using the RISE model. Okay, so you have this document as a PDF file under the discussion activity to make sure that you're writing thoughtful responses. While I have this open, let me go ahead and close that guy. I mentioned, uh, where is it? Here it is. I mentioned that at the end of every assignment sheet, you have a rubric. You also have these frequently asked questions, so don't miss that. Okay. For example, here's a good tip. You should probably type your answers first in Microsoft Word. This way you can spell check it. You can check it for grammar. all those little things before you post it to the board. Again, there is a tendency, it doesn't happen often, but it happens with some students. They type directly on the board and they don't proofread, or they type directly on the discussion board. And because they're so used to other online forums or message boards, they slip into the bad habits that you see online. So writing it first in Microsoft Word, then proofreading it, and then pasting it to the discussion board is a nice trick. But on the final page, you always have a rubric that shows you what you need to do to get, 90 to 100%, or 80 to 89, or 70 to 79. And it's graded basically in three major categories. Content. So I'll look at the content of what you've written. For example, the discussion topics are responded to fully, are thoughtful, and provoke further discussion. The writing is fluid, dynamic, imaginative, and reflects an expert understanding of the course material. In other words, when you describe your 2 or 3 experiences with writing or English class, you're putting effort into it. And I can tell that you've put effort into it. I can tell that you're thinking about the material. I can tell that you're thinking about your experiences, that you're explaining them in some detail, that you're actually examining your past experiences, not just writing a few sentences on the board to fulfill a requirement. As you can see, 20% is for grammar and mechanics, and 30% has to do with feedback to classmates. Okay. So responses should be specific, detailed, kind, and contribute. Right. So the writer is always giving specific examples or asking questions that further the discussion. Okay. So you have this rubric that's basically telling you what you need to do. So there's the first activity, just a discussion. Again, I think it's a pretty easy activity. Again, the only pitfalls to avoid are just, completing it just to complete it, and not putting much effort, or not proofreading, or not taking it seriously. If you take it seriously, it's sort of difficult not to do well on these assignments. And you can see some people have already responded. So I haven't looked through Alexandra's post yet, but it certainly looks like there's something there, right? 4 full paragraphs. Same thing with Cassandra. Okay. Again, I'll try to hopefully read and respond to these maybe tomorrow, but it looks like there's already some material and content to respond to. And the good thing about having these first 2 already submitting is that I've noticed that when people, the first responders, sort of set the tone, other people follow. So let's hope that that occurs. Okay, the second main activity for this week, it's your first major writing assignment, is this one, How I Write. It's worth 10% of your grade. So let's take a look at that. Okay, this is also a sort of introductory writing assignment. It's how do I put it? It is worth 10% of your grade, and it is graded pretty carefully on my end, but it's a low stake activity in the sense that it's just kind of picking up where the discussion left off. The discussion has to explore 2 or 3 experiences you've had with writing. The first major writing assignment sort of picks up from there, okay? Because you're going to examine your own writing process and speak about it a bit. So here is assignment number 1. In preparation, hopefully you've watched this go-to training session and you've read all the material. Once you've done that, your basic task is to write a 1 to 2 page essay that addresses the questions below. There are 5 questions. So the best way to handle this is to probably write 5 paragraphs. Okay, and a paragraph typically has about 5 to 7 sentences. It can have more. These are just general guidelines, okay? But if you're writing 5 to 7 sentences, you're probably writing at least enough for a decent paragraph. But if we look at the questions, what is your typical writing process? Describe your process in detail and be honest. Okay, again, I'm not grading you on how great I think your writing process is or how it could be improved. I just want you to explain your writing process to me. So maybe you brainstorm before you write. And if you brainstorm, maybe you have a specific type of brainstorming you like to use. Maybe you like to outline, maybe you like to free write, maybe you like to use a more visual strategy, like creating, I forget what they're called, like almost like a flow chart with circles where you circle ideas and connect them to other ideas. If you don't do any of those brainstorming sessions, you're freely to admit that you don't. Uh, do you write one draft or do you write multiple drafts? Do you proofread? Okay. Do you revise? Do you use your software's spell checker and grammar checker? Do you have a friend look over your material? Do you take advantage of the writing center? So basically describe your writing process in detail. And then other questions. What would your ideal writing environment be? And how might you change your writing environment to reflect that ideal one? What has been your past experience with writing and English courses? please describe a positive and negative experience. So you've already got some practice at that with the discussion activity. 4, identify a writer whom you respect and why do you admire this writer. Please don't tell me you don't have a writer you admire. Everybody does. Okay, even if you don't read novels a lot, maybe there's a sports writer that you regularly read. Maybe there's an industry writer that you regularly I can't say that word regularly read. Okay, so pick someone that you respect and explain why. And finally, what writing related goals are you interested in accomplishing over the course of your degree program? The funny thing about this is that I get a mixed bag of people who love writing, people who are somewhat lukewarm to it, and some people who are resistant to it. But every student understands the importance of writing. Even the ones who want to say, "Oh, I don't understand why I'm taking an English class. I'm studying film or I'm studying music. Writing won't be important." They know that that's not true. Most people know that writing and being able to write well can take you far. So hopefully you have some writing related goals that you're interested in accomplishing over your time here at the LA Film School. Um, Obviously, you should proofread for grammatical and mechanical errors. Okay, you should maintain a professional tone. We're not just speaking out loud on the page. We're not treating this like a tweet or a Facebook status. Okay, we're trying to write professionally, and it also needs to be submitted in APA format. And in just a second, I'm going to walk you through the basic steps. There's more to learn about APA, and we'll get to them in future weeks. But today, I'm going to show you just how to set up the basic format because for this first assignment, that's all you'll need. Um, but it means having things like a cover page, a header. It needs to be double spaced in 12 point times New Roman format. And because some of this information might sound like a foreign language to you, I'm going to show how to do it in just a second. And then there are conventions like, how to label your file and that it needs to be submitted to turnitin.com. As always, you have some frequently asked questions to read through, and you have that rubric showing you what you need to do to get a certain grade. Okay, so that's the activity. So there's a lot to do for this first Sunday, but I don't think it's tremendously difficult, especially if you stay on top of it. Okay, so for the last thing we're going to do tonight, let me get into APA formats. APA format is the format that's used at LA Film School, not just in English classes, but in all of your courses. And even though the McGraw-Hill readings cover this, and you can get them. There's also an APA document for you to look through that's attached with this first writing activity. But sometimes students can feel understandably confused because it could just seem like gibberish. So I'm going to walk you through the steps in real time. These are just layout issues, okay? This will help you complete the first assignment. Other weeks, when we get into issues of research and how to cite research and how to create a references page, there will be more to go over. But for this week, because this is all you need for the first activity, let's go over this as a class. Let me get rid of the gibberish I was creating earlier. Okay, so I'm using Microsoft Word. I'm specifically using the Microsoft Word version for Mac. If you have Microsoft Word for PC, the things that I point out here might be located in different places, but you should be able to find them. If you don't have Microsoft Word, you can use a tool like Google Docs or Microsoft OneDrive. Just be aware that some of these functions might be in different places. Okay, so you might actually have to go up to the menu and find the actual header. Like here, I think it's under View. Yeah, header, footer. But there's a much simpler way to do it if you're actually using Microsoft Word. Let me blow up this guy a little bit to a larger size. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is choose the right font, Times New Roman. Yep, that's what we need. It needs to be 12 points, so let's go ahead and change that. The next thing we need to do is set our margins. APA format requires 1-inch margins on all sides. So in my version of Microsoft Word, I just need to go to the Layout tab, and I get my margins. Okay, top and bottom look fine. They're both set to 1, but left and right need to be changed to 1 inch. And you'll notice that as I enter these numbers, the changes happen in real time. Okay, so they're happening even if you can't see them. So 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, great. The second thing we need to do is create our header. Again, you might have to do an extra step if you use Google Docs or Microsoft OneDrive. You might actually have to go to the menu and open the header. But if you have Microsoft Word, you just double click near the top of the page and boom, you're in. And you need to first type the word running head. Okay. and then the title of your essay. So we'll call this, and the title goes in all caps. How I Write. If you can come up with a more original title for your assignment, please do so. I'm just going to use this as my title for now. And then, boom, we're done. Okay. The second thing we need to do is insert page numbers. I actually like doing it the old-fashioned way. There is a way to do it from the shortcuts here, but I like going to insert and then page numbers because it already sets up the page. Actually, it isn't here, but usually it does. It usually opens up with where you need the page number to be anyway, which is in the top right corner. And once you have that set correctly, you just click on OK, and boom, a page number appears. And when we get to page 2, page 3, page 4, it will update automatically. Now, the next thing we need to do is go approximately halfway down the page. By the way, we're working on the cover page right now. And we need to type 3 things. The title of our paper again. This time it's not in all caps. Our name. I'm just going to put my name. And the school you are attending. The Los Angeles Film School. Now, this looks pretty terrible, you're thinking. That's right, because we're not done with it. We need to highlight all this. If you haven't already, make sure that you're on the original home page because that's where you'll find your basic tools. We need to double space this. In my version of Microsoft Word, it's this up and down arrow. So we need to change this from 1.0 to 2.0. And we need to center this. Now, the other thing we need to do is just by eyeballing it, okay, just using our visuals, we need to put this approximately in the middle of the page. So I'm actually going to make this smaller so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to bump this guy down. That looks about halfway. Actually, let me go up one. That looks centered. Okay, just approximate the center of the page. I'm going to blow this up again. I'm going to put my cursor at the very end here, and we're going to keep hitting enter or return until we get to the very first line of a new page. As soon as we get to that new page, we stop. Okay? As soon as we get there, we stop. So, boom, I'm stopping. We again type our title, How I Write. Notice some things. I'm not bolding it. I'm not underlining it. I'm not italicizing it. I'm not changing it to a size 30 font. Okay, one of the beauties of APA style is it uses one consistent font size and style for the entire document. Okay, it might seem weird to you. Students love to try to decorate. That's why they bold. That's why they underline. That's why but no. Okay, nothing except the simple title. We hit enter once. Not 2 times, not 10 times, okay, just once. We're going to move our cursor all the way to the left. We're going to indent because we always indent the first line of a new paragraph. We do that by hitting tab on our keyboard, and we can start typing away. This is where you type your paper. Now, I'm going to copy and paste this just to show something as I talk. Once you have a period that ends a sentence, you hit your space bar twice and keep typing away. Now, let's pretend that I'm typing away. Obviously, you won't be writing gibberish like this. You'll be replacing it with your own text. Let's say you reach the end of a paragraph. Let's say your paragraph ends here. You hit enter once, not 10 times, not 2 times, not 4 times, just once. We indent by hitting tab, and we keep on going. Okay. Notice that this is APA format. Again, this might look strange to some of you. Sometimes students like to do this. Put in extra spaces because they think everything looks bunched together. No, that's APA format. Okay, we don't create extra spaces between paragraphs. Double spacing is all we need. And next time you open a book, a Harry Potter novel or any book, you won't see 2, 5, 10 spaces between paragraphs. Okay, that's just pretty much the standard convention. We can keep typing. I was hoping to get to a new page so I could just show you that it does, in fact, roll over to a new page. Oh, and if you set up double spacing in advance, it just wraps around naturally. Part of the problem is sometimes I'll see students never set double spacing early. So they end up using Microsoft Word like a typewriter. They start typing, 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 and when they get to near to the end of the line, they hit enter manually, hit enter again to double space it, or at least make it look double space, and then keep typing. And that creates problems because then the computer doesn't recognize what you're doing manually. It thinks that it's not a new line, and tells you to start capitalizing the first word of a new line because it doesn't see. No. Just double space everything in advance, and you won't run into those problems. Okay, let me see if I can get to a new page. Blah 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 blah. Okay, this is a really long paragraph. There we go. Okay, as you can see, it just automatically updated on your own. The paragraph, if you're still working on paragraph, carries automatically over the next page. If we want to start a new one, we just hit enter once, indent, and keep on going. Okay, so this is all you need to know for your first assignment. If you can do this, if you can create your cover page, if you can create your header, there's actually technically the header on page 2 is supposed to look different than the header on page 1. The headers on page 2, 3, 4, etc. are supposed to eliminate the word running head, except it requires an extra step here that for some reason always confuses students. So I don't really care if you can figure it out. It's basically a matter of having the header open and then clicking on the header and footer tab that doesn't appear unless you're in there, and then selecting different first page. But the problem is once you select that, it eliminates what you have here and you have to retype it. So if you want to show off that you can create a different header for page 2 that doesn't include the word running head, that's fine. And if not, that's fine as well. But basically, these essential conventions, double spacing paragraphs, making sure they're indented, not having too much space between elements, you can do that, you're in good shape for your first assignment. And with that, I'm going to end this very first session. So even though we've covered a lot, I think it's been useful. You should have familiarity with how to move around the site, how to send me a message, how to register for both the textbook site and turnitin.com. You should know how to contact LA Film School support with any issues you might be having. And you have some background on what you need to do for these first 2 major activities, both the discussion and the first writing assignment. So if you do have any questions, please get in contact with me, okay? And I look forward to responding to your work this week. Thank you so much for attending.